Hey everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. Guess who's back in the shop? The 2007 Acura TSX 2.4 6-speed. On this vehicle, so it was months ago, probably late last year, I replaced the alternator. Put a link in the description, you can watch that video. So I remember when I got in the car in the morning, after completing the job the previous day, I went to go start it and nothing. The battery was dead. Like, what the heck? Called the owner up, asked him, has this ever happened before? He was like, no, not really. So, like, was that a fluke? Did I leave a dome light on or something? Let him take it, and he drove it for a few months, and then the same thing happened to him. He goes in the morning, boom, no crank, no start, dead battery. Gets it jump started, runs fine, charges, and then for a couple weeks it was fine, and then it happened again. So it sounds like an intermittent parasitic draw. These are the two toughest problems, most time-consuming problems to nail. I mean, parasitic draw could be anywhere. That could take a lot of time to figure out if it's consistent, and then add to that, it's intermittent. So we're fighting two uphill battles here. I have some measurement tools set up already. Yes, amp clamps. Why 3 amp clamps? Because, I don't know, I like verification. The more amp clamps, the better, right? So 2 of them, the AES wave and the OTC 60 amp clamp. On the low setting, 1 volt is 10 amps. And then the Craftsman clamp, which at these low current draws, it can be a little jumpy. So, that's why we have 3 clamps set up. And oh, look at that. Something went to sleep. Right, you guys caught it. This is why a scope is actually very handy for measuring parasitic draws, because you want to know when these modules go to sleep, when something wakes up when it's not supposed to. So on a really long time base, we have 2 amp clamps set up, yellow and green channels, and remember 1 volt is 10 amps, so 100 millivolts here is 1 amp. And so we're trying to find this parasitic draw. Now, all the amp clamps agree, it looks like. To check, you can just take the amp clamp off the wire and see if there's any significant change. So this one's, zeroed out and it's reading accurately. Back on the wire, there you go, I put it back on the wire, it's reading 0, like it's supposed to. So, what do? How do we recreate this problem? Well, we can, simulate, unlock the car, start it up, shut it off, lock it, see how long it takes to go to sleep. We could do that because in the morning, when I went to pull it in the garage here, it barely started. I mean, it was like fired up. And the guy said he had to buy a jump pack. So this problem is getting worse and worse, apparently. However, right now, it seems like everything's happy. 3 millivolts, that's 0.03 amps. That's fine. Everything's asleep right now. So see what happens when we unlock the door locks. The amperage goes through the roof, obviously. The turn signals blink. And now we are at about 0.6 amps. That agrees too. I'm just going to get in it, start it up, kind of simulate a drive cycle. We could take it for a test drive, maybe warm it up all the way, park it, get this navigation system. Key out, unlock the door, one more variable you got to watch out for aftermarket accessories. He has a dash cam. Of course, he's a Russian driver. How can you not have a dash cam? And this mileage tracker for an insurance company. Now, I took it off just because kind of eliminate the variables, but if we can't recreate it, we can put it back in. So, lock the car. Everything's locked. Now we're down to 0.6, 0.25. See, it dropped off. And this 1/4 amp draw goes on for, I don't know, at least 10 minutes. I want to see if it shuts off again. Now see, our amp clamps aren't quite agreeing. There's 0.3, there's 0.15. So this guy's our yellow trace, right? Is that still 0? Well, it's at 6. Hit the 0 button. Now it's at 0. So these things can drift. That's why I have multiple clamps on here, to see if they agree. Never trust just one. I mean, you can trust it, but you see the green one? That's at -5. Re-zero it. Now it's at 0. Put it back on. Wait a sec here. Re-zero. Bad connection now. There we go. So now they agree. 1/4 of an amp, 0.25. Would that be enough to drain a battery overnight to, where it can still start the car barely? Yes, it can. 1/4 of an amp, that's, that's fairly significant. That's like one little dome light being on. So we're like 2 test lights, basically. So we're gonna wait here. The time is, what's the time here? 9:35. Let's see how long it takes for the draw to go to 0, if it does. Okay, it just went to sleep. It is 9:42, so about 7 minutes. So let's pause that, zoom out, and on a long time base we have a very good picture of what was going on. So let's see if, using cursors here, if this time from here to here was consistent. 270 seconds. So divide that by 60 to get to minutes. That's how long it took for that 1/4 amp draw to go away. So how many minutes is that? 270 seconds, about, well, let's say 5 minutes. A little less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes would be, 5 times 6 is 300 seconds. So let's measure this time here. From here to .500 seconds, almost 10 minutes. Let's repeat this one more time to see if it's consistent. So this is when we're locking, unlocking stuff. Let's do the drive cycle again. Simulate a drive cycle, see if it goes to sleep, and save that capture. And if we still can't recreate it, we'll take it for a test drive, and if we still can't recreate it, if it still goes to sleep within 10 minutes, that's normal. I think we might have to go and do some research. Now, people might say, Ivan, it's an Acura. Unplug the blank module. Yes, I have seen some parasitic draws on Acuras, and some modules are known to misbehave and stay awake. But we need a definitive answer here. So let's simulate the drive cycle again, see how long it takes to go to sleep, and go from there. Alright, here we go. Car's asleep. 0 on the amp clamps. Obviously unlock it. See what happens to our traces. Unlock, unlock. It's about 0.6 amps right now. Stuff is waking up. Get inside. Let it idle for a little bit. Nice throttle response. So the dash cam wakes up, navigation wakes up. Alright, shut her down. Goodbye. And lock it. Now let's see. Why do we have more than a 10 amp draw right now? Okay, something clicked. We're down to 0.12 or 0.7. So that's 0.1 amps. In this case, the amp clamps aren't agreeing. See, they drifted a little bit. Let's just double check. This is the yellow trace. Take it off. Still pretty well zeroed. Put it back on. Take this one off. See, it's showing like 8. We'll re-zero that one. Clamp it back on. And we're basically down to 0. So that's not consistent. Why did the car go to sleep right away? I don't know. Let's just try like unlocking the locks and the car went to sleep right away. No issues. About 0.7. Lock it. So 0.6. That was amazing. See if the relay clicks. So nothing clicked, but now we're down to the 1/4 amp draw again. Very interesting. Man, not only is it intermittent, it's inconsistent. We're doing the same thing. Sure everything wakes up here. Navigation, dash cam, all your essentials. Okay, there we go. Shut her down. Says goodbye. Lock it. And so that's 1.7 amps right now. See, stuff is talking on and off, on and off, on and off. Okay. Boom, back down to 0. I'm just going to let this simmer. Go have some dinner. This is plenty of buffer. Maybe it'll wake up on its own. Who knows? Alright, it's been about an hour. The car is still totally asleep. Zeros on the amp clamps. So, what we know is sometimes there is no parasitic draw. The problem is still intermittent. We have to try to recreate it. Take it for a spin, shut it off, try again, and then do a little research online if we still can't recreate the problem. Alright, it's the next evening. The Acura has been sitting here. Haven't touched it. Put the amp clamps back on. No draw. So it should fire right up. Last thing we can do to try to recreate this problem is take it for a spin, pull it back in here, park it. If there's no draw, then we'll have to take an educated guess on what the draw is. Alright, here we go. Start up. Ooh. A little slow. Interesting. You know what? Let's pop the hood open, see how much current this battery is accepting. We can actually have the headlights on. Let's leave it on for about 5 minutes and see how much capacity this battery has. It is possible that, you know, all this draining and kind of charging up has depleted the battery significantly, and even when there's no draw, the battery's still kind of, you know, on the edge there. So it could be a possibility. Let's put an amp clamp on there to see how much the battery is accepting on initial startup. So right now the battery's at 9.6 volts. Lights seem bright. That is crazy. Let's go to the amp setting. We're drawing about 20 amps with the lights on. Lights off. 0.25. And now, if this thing starts up, over current. So it's accepting about 20 amps. It's going down quickly. We can check the volts. Alright, 14.2, that's good. The alternator is doing its thing. Now 17 amps. I'm going to let it run for like 5 minutes and see if we're going to recommend a new battery. Is it possible that overnight something woke up, drained it, and then went back to sleep, and when we checked it, it was still fine? Possible. The battery's not completely spanked. Go back to volts. A lot of variables here. Shut the car off. What does the voltage do here? There's some surface charge. We have the headlights on. Sucker should drop pretty quickly. Shouldn't drop that quickly. Wow. Yeah, the battery's spanked. We're below 10 volts already. We had the headlights on for like 3 seconds. Alright, let's still continue with our experiment. Take it for a spin. See if there's a draw. Well, I just pulled it in. Didn't even lock it. The car's already asleep. Wow. There, I locked it. Now, which clamp is misbehaving here? Yep, it's about a quarter of an amp. Let's see how long it takes for that thing to disappear. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But otherwise, this thing really needs a battery. I mean, we can put our voltmeter back on. See what the voltage is on here. 12.8, quarter amp draw. It's 8:35. Alright, looks like we're back down to 0. Again, let's measure the time it took for that quarter amp draw to go away. We're at 12.7 volts. So the battery's hanging in there. Zoom out. And zoom in on here. Get our cursors in. Okay. And there. 450 seconds. That's about what it took last time. I really don't know. The last thing we could do, if we can't reproduce this, we can put that little mileage tracker dongle back in. See if it's keeping the network alive for some reason. But otherwise, there's no draw. It definitely needs a battery. And there was a draw at some point. So it's intermittent. We can't reproduce it. That's the frustrating part. You know, I've already spent quite a bit of time in this car just trying to reproduce the draw so we can track it down on video. If we can't do it, we're going to have to take an educated guess. Alright. The little mileage tracker is plugged in. I locked the car right there. I'm going to let it simmer. So right now it's 0.32 of an amp, so a little higher than 0.25. I'm wondering if the little lights lit up on here. Sure is. So that thing is, whenever it's plugged in, it's doing something. So let's see if this thing goes to sleep within 10 minutes and what the current draw is when it does go to sleep. That current draw is even 1/10 of an amp, and the guy leaves his car in the winter for like a couple weeks and that battery gets depleted and then the battery's shot. So you know, that could be the cause of this problem. It's not necessarily the car's fault, it's just aftermarket garbage. Well, it looks like we're back down to 0. Just make sure the amp clamps haven't drifted. That's the green one. Put it back on. Yep, they're basically both at 0. So let's pause that, zoom out. There's the drop. So that's at 0. Right here. Zoom in a little more. So when you lock the car, so that little dongle was doing some stuff, and then it went to sleep, and then the last thing went to sleep, and it took 840 seconds, which is over 10 minutes, but still everything went to sleep, which I find curious. So right there is some activity on the network. Those little spikes. Right there they stop. So this stuff is coming from the dongle, I think, and when it goes to sleep, the little red light actually is now blinking instead of being constantly on. There it is. That's it. We can go look at TSBs for Acuras. Go online, see if people have any parasitic draw problems. I think the problem's still there because I experienced it when it was here in the shop half a year ago, and the battery was flat, you know, it was just done. So it definitely needs a new battery. Go look online, see if there are any common causes for intermittent parasitic draw in an Acura TSX.